Hi, everybody. This is Group B for Communications Management 508. We'll be talking about the Shrek case study. And as all of you know in this class, the producer and director have asked us to intervene and help them understand why they're missing deadlines. So we're going to answer these questions. There are three specific questions, and we've got Jennifer, Michelle, Estella, and Nada to answer these questions for us. So the first one, I'll start with Jennifer. What advice would you give the Shrek producer and director?
I think I would tell them that it's a positive sign that they wanted to create a more productive work environment. The issues they are facing don't necessarily mean they are bad leaders, but rather need to examine the way they're attempting to connect all the different groups. But according to the reading this week, the year 2007, the producer and director need to first convince the crew that there's a communication crisis that's creating the dissatisfaction.
Great. Estella, what do you say?
I think they should also continue the communication with their teams and try to understand where the process has broken down in order for them to recommend a solution.
Perfect. Michelle, what are your 2 cents?
And I would also assure the producer and director just that everything will be okay and that they need to basically take ownership and leadership of the project and set realistic expectations. And then also speak to their crew individually or form a focus group just to put everything into play, but most importantly, basically let them know everything's going to be okay and set plan of action.
Great. And our final respondent, Nada, what do you have to say? What advice would you give them?
I think they should continue to meet with all of the employees and let them know that they appreciate their passion, they value their work, and just to put confidence back into their team, because I feel like right now it's very fragmented in terms of communication and overall organizational structure. And I think that has a lot to do with what's going on with deadlines. People don't know who to report to, people don't know their responsibilities, and there's no real sense of cohesion.
Great, thank you. So thanks everybody for the answer to number 1. And the second question we're posing to analyze the situation is, what is the exact problem? So Estella, can you tell us what you think the problem is?
What it seems to appear is that there's neither the executive producer or the director have a clear communication channel with their assistants or the line producer, who, and in my understanding, is the person who's in charge of making sure that everyone is meeting the deadlines. So, and if this is something that has happened before, because assuming that there are more than one deadline missing, this was not nipped in the bud at the beginning. So it was, very clear that that needed to be addressed originally. Also, maybe some deadlines may have been, created before the innovative technology was developed. So maybe that needed to be addressed as well, because when you deal with innovation, sometimes schedules change. So that needed to be cleared away too.
Great, thanks. Now, Michelle, what do you have to say?
And like Estelle was saying, I think the number one problem is the lack of communication, and also a strategic plan. It was evident that was not created. I think that if they were to treat it as almost a acquisition and put a Gantt chart in place where they can, every crew member and function can actually have realistic expectations, know the priorities, and understand what's expected of them, they can move forward cohesively. And another thing, too, is the culture. Definitely the culture I see as a problem, because there are issues such as conflicts that arise and a sense of loyalty, for example, when inventors are refusing to share their prototypes. So I think really the leadership and the lack of communication needs to be improved.
Great, thanks. And Nada, what do you think the problem is in this situation?
I think there's a separation of power between the filmmakers and the creative team. I think the creative team probably feels like there's this enormous sense of division, and they can't really communicate with the filmmakers at their upper management, quote unquote, and there's no form of communication there. Even in the case breakdown we had, it said that someone asked why we are there as a consulting group, so they don't have to be, the filmmakers don't have to be involved. So it's almost like having an intermediary causes even more of a problem, and basically the creative team feels like they can't go to filmmakers for any problems they might have. And it might not even be a problem. Maybe they just want to communicate with them and they feel like they can't.
Great, thanks. And Jennifer, do you have anything to add?
I do. You know, we've talked about communication and lack of team effort being their biggest issues. I think that another problem that was stated in this week's reading is that there's no repercussions for the groups that are unwilling to talk to each other, between, you know, the inventors not wanting to use their or share their technology and the other creative group not wanting to show up to the meeting. So if there's no line of repercussion in their behavior, then it's hard to ask them to stick to behavior that's been outlined for them.
It's a good point. Thanks. All right, so the final question to this scenario, what should they do? Now, Stella, what do you think this group should do in order to improve?
I think they may want to consider an evaluation of processes and capabilities of the people that are responsible for keeping that process working. You know, they need to be able to be prepared to foresee any kind of delays before those delays happening and kind of address them at that moment. Also review maybe the schedule of production. There may be an opportunity to reconsider deadlines. Again, like I mentioned before, when we have new technology involved, the timetables, original timetables may have been developed with a previous experience, but as technology is being developed, those may have to be adjusted. So there may be to be some flexibility and more realistic timetables set up. So maybe an overlook at their whole production schedule.
Great, good suggestion. Michelle, what do you think?
And as I previously mentioned with the Gantt chart, I think by putting a strategic plan in place and treat it like an organization, basically everyone will know their expectations going forward, their priorities, what's expected of them. But more importantly, too, is to ask the crew members for suggestions, engage them in conversation, and make it known that they are part of this project, that there are leaders, the producer and director leading the project, but ultimately it's them that are doing the work, and you know how they can work together as a team going forward. And then absolutely ask them for feedback. Ask them what's not working, and if there's conflicts that arise, they need to ask why are these happening. So continue doing the interviews, the focus groups, not only at the beginning but also throughout the project, so you can overcome any hurdles that come along.
Great, that's a good answer, Michelle. Thanks. And then Nada, what's your recommendation?
Just to continue with Michelle's comments, I really believe that just keeping everyone in the loop on everything, and at the end of the day, they're all making a film. Like, it's art, it's something that everyone to some degree has passion and interest for, and it seems that everyone does, but they're just not on point in terms of communication. So I think if the filmmakers could exude some confidence and manage everyone's passion, then they can get this project done.
Yeah, that sounds good. And Jennifer, what are your comments on that?
Well, like we've all talked about, all of the individuals on the crew need to be involved in creating a joint solution to the communication problem. But more than that, expectations should be very clearly defined for all of them. And then, like we talked about before, there need to be set repercussions if people don't do what's expected of them in showing up to meetings and working with other groups to accomplish the goal of creating the film. And then, you know, after everyone's input is considered and new guidelines are set in place moving forward, it's important to, you know, meet with the entire crew to lay out the new guidelines so that everybody's on the same page and that they know that this is what is expected of them, and if they don't meet those, that there would be repercussions down the road.
Great. Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Jennifer, Estella, Michelle, and Nada. I think you thoroughly answered these questions, and we've analyzed the situation. And those are our recommendations for this Shrek case study. Thanks.